There comes a moment when holding on starts to hurt more than letting go. When the memories that once made you smile now feel heavy, not because they weren't real, but because they're no longer right for where you are. You've spent enough time replaying what could have been, hoping the past might somehow rewrite itself. But it won't, and it's not supposed to, because healing isn't about erasing him, it's about freeing yourself. Let his memory fade, not out of bitterness, but out of love for your own peace. You deserve to wake up without the weight of what hurt you. You deserve quiet, clarity, and calm, not chaos disguised as love. Just because you remember him doesn't mean he still deserves a place in your heart. Memories have a way of holding us hostage, don't they? They come back in flashes, the sound of his voice, the places you went, the little routines that once made you feel safe. And sometimes those moments feel so vivid, so alive, that it's almost as if he's still there, but memory isn't love. It's just an echo of it, and the danger is when you start confusing what you remember with what still belongs to you. You see, the mind is selective. It remembers what it misses, not what hurt. When you think of him, you don't always remember the distance, the silence, the way you felt unseen. You remember the way he made you laugh, the warmth of his touch, the few good days that felt like forever. And that's the trick memories play. They filter out the pain and highlight the parts that felt like magic. But if you look closer, those moments were fragments, not the full story. The reality is, those good memories were surrounded by confusion, inconsistency, and hurt. You're not wrong for remembering. You're human. You're wired to hold on to what once brought comfort, even when it's no longer healthy. But just because it once felt right doesn't mean it still deserves your energy now. Memory isn't a reason to keep someone emotionally alive. It's just a reminder of what you experienced, and sometimes that's all it's meant to be. You don't need to punish yourself for remembering, but you also don't need to keep feeding those thoughts with nostalgia. Because the more you replay the past, the longer you delay your peace. It's okay to let those moments fade. You don't have to hate him to release him. You don't have to rewrite history or pretend it was all bad. It's enough to acknowledge that it's over and that your heart deserves to move on from the weight of what was. Sometimes holding on isn't about love anymore, it's about fear. Fear that if you let go, you'll lose the last piece of what once felt meaningful. But here's the truth. You won't lose anything real by letting go of a memory. What's real doesn't fade, only illusions do. And if something fades when you stop holding it so tightly, it was never meant to last. Letting his memory fade doesn't mean erasing him. It means accepting that he was a chapter, not the whole story. It means taking what you learned about love, about boundaries, about yourself, and leaving the rest behind. Because healing isn't about remembering less. It's about remembering differently. One day you'll think of him and it won't sting. It'll just feel distant, like a movie you once watched and cared about, but no longer feel attached to. That's when you'll know you've moved from pain to peace. He doesn't deserve to live rent-free in your heart just because he once made you feel something. Feelings fade when they're no longer nourished, and memories fade when you stop revisiting them. The more you focus on your present, your growth, your joy, your new experiences, the less room there is for him. Because peace doesn't grow where pain still lingers, so let him fade. Let the moments blur until they no longer control your emotions. You're not forgetting him out of spite. You're simply making room for something better, peace, clarity, and freedom. He was a part of your journey, but he doesn't get to define your destination. You can honor what was without living in it. You can remember without reliving. And when you finally give yourself permission to stop carrying his memory, you'll realize something powerful. Peace was never about forgetting him. It was about remembering yourself. You can't heal if you keep painting your pain in soft colors. The reason It's so hard to move on isn't always because you still love him. It's often because you've built a version of him in your mind that never truly existed. You've taken fragments of the good moments, the laughter, the comfort, the connection, and replayed them over and over until they look like proof that you lost something perfect. But the truth is, you're not missing him as much as you're missing who you thought he could be. That's why healing feels like a tug of war between your heart and your logic, because part of you knows it wasn't right, but another part still wants to believe it was. When you're stuck in that loop, your memory becomes your biggest enemy. You replay conversations where he said the right things and conveniently skip the moments he didn't show up when it mattered. You remember his charm, but forget his distance. You replay the passion, but silence the pain. That's what romanticizing does. It distorts the truth to make the loss easier to swallow. But it also keeps you emotionally tethered to something that no longer deserves your energy. You can't truly heal if you're still defending the person who hurt you in your own mind. Healing begins the moment you stop editing the past to make it more beautiful than it was. It's not easy, because admitting the truth means admitting you accepted less than you deserved. It means confronting the fact that you stayed, not because it was love, but because you were hoping it would turn into love. And that realization stings, but it's also the turning point, because once you stop rewriting your story, you give yourself permission to learn from it. You start seeing things clearly, the inconsistencies, the excuses, the way your peace slowly disappeared while you tried to hold everything together. And once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. That clarity hurts, but it also frees you. You see, peace doesn't come from pretending the past was beautiful. Peace comes from accepting that it was broken and that you survived it anyway. Every time you stop yourself from idealizing him, you reclaim a little bit of your power. Every time you remind yourself that the pain you felt was real, you weaken the hold those memories have over you. Healing isn't a single moment. It's a process of reprogramming your mind to see reality instead of fantasy. And reality, as harsh as it may be, will always hurt less than the illusion you've been clinging to. The truth is, you didn't lose the love of your life. You lost the version of him you built in your imagination. You lost potential, not peace, because real love doesn't make you question your worth. It doesn't make you feel anxious or small. The fact that you're trying to heal means your heart is wiser now. It's learning to value calm over chaos, truth over illusion. That's growth, that's strength. So stop romanticizing what broke you. Stop giving meaning to moments that were never consistent enough to build a future on. You can honor the fact that there were good days, but don't let those days blind you to the reality that it wasn't sustainable. Love that costs your peace isn't love, it's dependency disguised as devotion. Let the highlight reel fade and start remembering the full picture. Because when you finally do, you'll realize it wasn't love that kept you there, it was hope. And now you have the power to turn that hope inward. Hope for yourself, hope for healing, hope for peace that isn't tied to anyone else. That's where real love begins again, not with him, but with you. Missing someone doesn't mean you still belong with them. It just means you have a heart that once cared deeply, and it's trying to make sense of the space that person used to fill. When you miss him, it doesn't necessarily mean he was right for you. It means you once attached meaning, comfort, and emotion to his presence. That attachment doesn't disappear overnight. It lingers. It makes you wonder if maybe there's still something there, if maybe missing him is a sign that the story isn't over. But missing someone is not the same as needing them. It's just your heart processing the absence of what it once knew. You can miss his voice, his energy, the way he made you feel seen in small moments, and still know he wasn't good for your peace. You can think about him and still not want him back, because the truth is, love doesn't vanish immediately after loss. It fades in stages. Some days you feel strong, detached, even free, And other days, something as simple as a song or a scent pulls you back to a memory you didn't ask for. That's not weakness, that's healing in real time. Healing is messy, it doesn't move in a straight line. You can be over him in your mind but still feel the ache of missing him in your heart. What matters is what you do with that feeling. Missing him doesn't mean you should reach out. It doesn't mean the love was meant to continue. It just means you're human enough to remember. When you start confusing missing someone with needing them, you give power to nostalgia, and nostalgia is a liar. It makes the past look softer than it was. It tricks you into thinking the chaos was passion and the distance was depth. But if you think honestly, you'll realize that missing him doesn't erase the pain that came with him. You can't selectively bring back the good parts without reopening the same wounds. Instead of resisting the feeling of missing him, let it come and let it pass. Don't judge it, don't feed it. Let it be what it is, a wave that rises and falls. The more you fight it, the stronger it gets. But when you allow it to exist without acting on it, you take away its power. You teach yourself emotional self-control, the kind that says, yes, I miss him, but I also remember why I had to let him go. That's emotional maturity. That's strength in its quietest form. Missing him is natural, but staying stuck on him is a choice. You can hold space for what was without sacrificing your peace for what isn't. You can acknowledge that he mattered to you without making him matter forever. Every time you let the feeling pass without reaching out, you're rewiring your emotional patterns. You're teaching your heart that peace is more important than temporary comfort. And the beautiful thing about that is, over time, you'll notice that missing him becomes less intense. The waves come less frequently, the memories feel lighter. You start remembering him not with pain, but with perspective. That's how healing happens. It's not about forgetting him. It's about not needing the memory to define your emotions anymore. You stop checking if he misses you back. You stop wondering what could have been. You stop giving energy to someone who's no longer present. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll notice that you haven't thought about him in weeks. You'll hear his name and it won't sting. You'll realize that missing him was just part of the process, not a sign you were meant to go back. So let yourself miss him without making it mean something deeper. It's just your heart adjusting to a new rhythm, one that beats for you now, not for him. You can honor what you felt without reopening old doors, because peace doesn't come from never missing him again. It comes from missing him and still choosing yourself anyway. Closure isn't something he gives you. It's something you create within yourself when you finally accept that not every question will be answered and not every ending will make sense. We grow up believing that closure comes from someone explaining why they hurt us, why they left, or why they changed. We think if we could just have one more conversation, one more honest moment, we'd be able to move on peacefully. But real closure rarely looks like that. Sometimes the person who broke your heart can't give you the truth you need because they don't even have it themselves. They can't explain their choices because they haven't faced them. And waiting for them to give you peace is like standing in the rain waiting for someone who never promised to come. You don't need his apology to heal. You don't need his permission to let go. Closure starts when you stop giving him the power to decide when you move on. It's when you stop replaying his words, his absence, his half-truths, and realize that peace isn't something he owes you. It's something you owe yourself. The longer you wait for him to make it right, the longer you keep yourself trapped in the story where he's still the main character. But your healing begins when you decide the story continues without him. You can choose to close the chapter even if he never signs off on it. The truth is, closure doesn't come from understanding him, it comes from understanding yourself. It's realizing that his choices weren't a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of his capacity. You might never know why he stopped trying, why he became distant, or why he made promises he didn't keep. And you don't need to. Because peace doesn't come from knowing the reason. It comes from no longer needing to know. When you stop chasing answers, you start finding acceptance, and acceptance is the foundation of closure. Think about it. How many times have you gone over the same memories trying to find the moment things changed? You keep dissecting every word, every text, every silence. But that's not healing, that's self-punishment disguised as analysis. You're trying to make logic out of emotions that were never logical. The truth is, closure doesn't come from understanding the breakup. It comes from understanding the lesson. It's about asking yourself, what did this teach me about what I need? What will I never tolerate again? What does love actually look like for me now? When you start asking those questions, the focus shifts from him to you, and that's where your power comes back. You don't need to know what he's thinking. You don't need to wait for him to feel remorse. Maybe he never will. But that doesn't mean you can't heal. Closure isn't a gift you wait to receive. It's a decision you make to stop letting the past define your peace. It's standing in your own strength and saying, I deserve to move forward, even if I never get the ending I wanted. Because sometimes closure isn't a conversation, it's silence. It's blocking his number, deleting the messages, and choosing not to look back, even when part of you wants to. It's forgiving yourself for what you tolerated and forgiving him, not because he deserves it, but because you deserve freedom. You may never get to hear the words "I'm sorry" or "you meant everything to me," but one day you'll wake up and realize you don't need them anymore. The ache that once demanded answers will quiet, the questions will lose their power. That's closure. It doesn't arrive dramatically. It comes quietly on a random morning when your heart finally accepts that peace isn't something he can give. It's something you've already created by choosing to stop chasing what broke you. Your mind and your soul are not always on the same timeline when it comes to letting go. Your mind clings, replays, analyzes, trying to make sense of what happened, trying to control what can't be changed. It replays conversations, imagines different outcomes, and keeps asking what if. But your soul, that deeper, quieter part of you, already knows. It's already accepted the truth your mind refuses to face, that it's over, that he's not coming back in the way you hoped, that peace lives on the other side of release. The mind fights for control, but the soul seeks freedom. The battle between the two is what keeps you stuck. Your mind keeps reaching for him because it's addicted to the pattern of familiarity. You got used to the rhythm of his presence, the good mornings, the texts, the laughter, even the tension. Even chaos can feel like home when it's what you've known for too long. So your mind clings to what's familiar, not because it's good for you, but because it's afraid of the void that comes after. That's why moving on feels like losing a part of yourself. But your soul doesn't fear the void. It understands that emptiness is just space waiting to be filled with something better. The hardest part about letting go isn't missing him. It's trusting that peace can exist without him. Your mind whispers, but what if he changes? What if I never feel that connection again? What if I gave up too soon? But your soul gently answers, you're not giving up. You're growing out of what no longer fits. The mind doubts, the soul knows. Every time you choose to quiet the noise of your thoughts and listen to that calm voice within you, you move closer to healing. There's a part of you that already knows the truth. He wasn't meant to stay, the lessons were. You were meant to learn self-respect through disappointment, strength through heartbreak, and self-trust through uncertainty. The mind can't always see that because it's focused on the loss. But your soul, your deeper wisdom, knows you gained something even more valuable, clarity. The pain was not punishment, it was revelation, and once you understand that, the need to hold on begins to loosen its grip. Letting go doesn't happen all at once. It's a process of choosing peace every day, even when your mind tries to drag you back into the past. It's a daily practice of catching yourself when you start replaying old memories and reminding yourself, That version of me doesn't exist anymore. Because she doesn't, she evolved. She's becoming the version of herself who doesn't beg for love, who doesn't chase closure, who doesn't wait for someone else to choose her. And the more you connect with that version, the more your soul takes the lead. When you finally listen to your soul, something shifts. The memories stop feeling like open wounds and start feeling like old pages in a book you've already read. You stop needing to understand every detail. You stop wondering if he misses you. You stop craving validation from the person who caused your pain. Because the soul doesn't crave what the ego does. It doesn't need attention, apology, or recognition. It just wants peace. Your mind may still bring him up sometimes, that's okay. You'll think of him in passing, but it won't shake you anymore. You'll feel the memory, then let it drift away like a cloud passing through the sky. You'll realize that the pain has softened, that the hold has weakened. That's when you know your soul has taken over. It's not that you forgot him, it's that you remembered yourself. And that shift, that quiet acceptance, is the moment freedom begins. Letting his memory fade doesn't mean pretending he never existed. It means reclaiming your power over how his presence lives in your story. You don't have to erase every trace of him, delete every photo, or act like the love you once felt wasn't real. It was real, it just wasn't forever, and there's no shame in that. Healing isn't about forgetting, it's about changing the way you remember. It's about reaching a point where thinking of him doesn't drain your energy or disturb your peace, where you can remember without reliving, where his name no longer feels like a wound, just a chapter you've already finished reading. In the beginning, every memory feels sharp. Every thought of him feels like a fresh reminder of what you lost. You might hear a song, visit a place, or see something that reminds you of him, and suddenly the ache returns. That's normal. It's what hearts do when they're still untangling themselves from attachment. But over time, the edges soften. The same memories that once broke you start to lose their intensity. The pain begins to fade, not because they weren't important, but because your heart learns how to hold them without hurting. Peace doesn't come from deleting the past. It comes from no longer needing it to define you. You can acknowledge that he mattered without making him matter now. That's what real healing looks like. It's not bitterness. It's neutrality. It's the day you realize that you can think of him without feeling like you've lost something. Because you didn't lose anything that was truly meant for you. You simply outgrew what was too small for your peace. Sometimes people think that in order to heal, they have to hate the person who hurt them. But you don't have to hate him. You just have to stop giving him emotional access. You have to stop letting his memory interrupt your joy. Because when you keep replaying what went wrong, you're still living in reaction to his actions. You're still letting him dictate your emotions long after he's gone. Letting his memory fade means choosing to redirect your focus, not toward what hurt, but toward what's possible now. It means taking the energy you once poured into him and investing it back into yourself. You can remember him as someone who taught you something about love, about boundaries, about your own strength. Every person you've ever loved leaves a mark, but not every mark has to leave a scar. The pain that once felt unbearable becomes a reminder of how deeply you're capable of loving and how resilient your heart really is. The more you focus on your growth, your healing, and your peace, the less power those old memories have. They become part of your history, not your present, and then one day you'll think of him, maybe his face, his laugh, or a small detail that once mattered, and there'll be no rush of emotion. Just stillness. That's when you know you've healed. That's when you've finally separated memory from meaning. He'll no longer hold the power to make your heart race or your mind wander. He'll simply be someone you once knew, someone who helped shape the person you've become, but no longer defines her. That's what peace truly feels like, remembering without pain, looking back without longing, and realizing you're finally free. You won't need to force yourself to forget him because you'll have something better, a life so full, so peaceful, that there's simply no room for the past to echo anymore. His memory will fade naturally, not because you pushed it away, but because you filled your heart with something stronger, your own happiness. There comes a time when holding on feels heavier than letting go, when you finally understand that peace isn't something you find in another person, it's something you choose for yourself. You don't have to fight the memories anymore. You don't have to chase closure or wait for the pain to make sense. You can simply decide that your heart deserves quiet after the storm. Letting his memory fade isn't about pretending he never mattered, it's about accepting that you matter more. You've carried enough weight trying to make sense of the past. Now it's time to live for the present, to fill your days with calm instead of chaos, truth instead of hope, peace instead of pain. Healing doesn't mean you've forgotten him. It means you've remembered who you are without him, and that's where your power lies. So let the memories soften, let your soul breathe, and let your heart be free.